I am so excited. Today we are doing something entirely new in the studio. Well, not quite new because I'm using this ancient relic that I built, I think maybe, less than a year before we moved to Oregon. So this would be 2016, I think. Yeah, 2016, I made this. What do you think it is?
Okay, I realized that the title of this YouTube video probably gave it away. It is a screen printing table. It's a custom one that I built all by myself out of a Korean kitchen countertop and plywood, and it's got this adjustable back on it with the hinges attached so you can do the micro adjustment for registration. And bonus, it has a vacuum system. There's a hollow channel inside between these pieces of plywood and the Korean top, and I went through and drilled about 1,200 extra tiny holes. They're hard to see. Here's a really close-up look. And all of these holes will hold down your paper when you're printing when you connect a vacuum cleaner to the nozzle. It's wonderful.
Of course, to screen print, you're going to need screens, hence the name Screen Printing, and that is what we have here. It is a actual screen made out of, I think, nylon, stretched at a super high tension on an aluminum frame. Now, I did not burn these screens. Burning is the photo magic process of putting a chemical on here that reacts to light that lets you transfer your design onto a screen. I did do the design, but I do not have the equipment required to burn just yet. I don't know if I will get it. It's pretty involved and it involves a lot of chemicals. So I had these burned for me locally here in Eugene, and I can't wait to print them. I'm not going to show you my design. I'm just going to let it develop as we go through this video. I will say one of the designs is based on a mug that we're doing right now, and the other is an old favorite of mine that I absolutely love. I realize I should probably explain just what screen printing is in case you've never heard of it before. So we saw the screen, I showed you the screen, I showed you the screen printing table, but the reason we call it screen printing is we're going to actually use this mesh, this screen, just like a window screen to print with. So I have coated the mesh, well, I didn't do it, but I had somebody do it who had the right equipment, with a photosensitive emulsion. It is a chemical that is sensitive to light. They paint it all over the whole screen. It coats the screen. It makes the screen impervious to moisture. And then I put a design on it. I give them a design and they put it on here and they expose it to light. And everywhere that my design is, the emulsion disappears and it can go through it. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna put ink on here. The ink is gonna sit on here. I'm gonna take a squeegee and squish it across, and it's gonna push ink through the screen. Everywhere that my design was, it will pass through onto the paper, and everywhere that my design wasn't, it will be blocked by the emulsion. And then you will get a design, which I can grab. There we go. So there you can see screen. This is the emulsion. It can't go through. This is where it goes through. I hope that makes sense. It's an incredible process, and it probably makes more sense if you just see me doing it. Okay, I think I've got the table set up and ready to go, which means we are almost ready to print. What else do I need to do? Well, I want to prep my jig a little bit more that we made with the laser. I will show you that in a second. And Denise, who was a printmaking minor in college, popped in and reminded me that I might want to tidy things up before I start mixing ink and putting out things for printmaking so that I don't get clay and other nasty stuff into the prints. She's right. So let's clean the studio.
After a week of casting molds, the floor is a disaster. I'm going to go through and scrape it and vacuum it and then mop it. Now, my vacuum cleaner is special. It has got a HEPA filter specifically for clay particles. If you do not have a fancy pants clay vacuum cleaner, only mop because clay dust is bad for you.
Okay, that's much better. Nice and clean. I'm letting the tables dry off and then I'll put table paper on them. And in the meantime, it's time to look at those jigs. All right, let's talk about these jigs really quick. What do I mean when I'm talking about a jig? Well, a jig is a thing that lets you do multiple repetitions identically and easily. And this is the jigs that I made. These are the jigs that I made for this screen printing process. Now, we're going to do two challenging things with this screen printing adventure. One, we are printing in multiple colors, which means that we need to line up each print perfectly. We print one color, let it dry, then we bring it back, we switch screens, and we print another color on top of it, and they need to line up exactly. Secondly, we're not printing on paper, we're printing on wood. That's right, I had Denise cut these really cool shapes. We're doing a big oval and we're doing a small square. And in order to get these to line up perfectly, we made these jigs that hold them exactly. And they have got these registration points, which match up perfectly with the registration marks on our screens.
I should add, if you're going to try making acrylic jigs like this in your studio, that I did bevel all of the edges. I sanded the edges down so that they wouldn't make a hole or cut the screen while we printed. And I also put these little finger notches in there that make it easy to get the wood pieces in and out of the jigs while the jig is glued down to the printing table.
So I'm extremely excited about today. I mean, we're making stuff, which is always exciting, but we're making something new. There's something exciting about doing a new process, a new project, just making things in different materials, in different media. It tickles different parts of your brain. It's something I have been looking forward to for quite a while. I mean, you know, I made this whole contraption, oh my God, almost a decade ago. And it's just been kind of sitting back there in the storage, beckoning me. I take a look at it every once in a while and think, you know, I gotta get back on that screen printing train, just because it's such an exciting media. Why is it exciting? Well, it's really fast. Now, there's a lot of prep work, but there's a lot of prep work in ceramics too. But once you get going, you really get going.
Okay, folks, it's happening. We are actually going to start printing. Before we do, let's just quickly make sure we've got everything we need. Today, we're going to print 2 different designs, 3 colors per design, and that requires 2 entire screens. Next up, we've got our squeegees. I've got a big one and a little one, depending on what design we print. I've got some mixing cups for custom color mixing. I've got ink. We're using a Speedball water-soluble ink. I'm using masking tape. This is a fancy red masking tape. We'll see how it works. I've got a spatula for moving ink around. I've also got a tape dispenser with a terrifying metal edge on it to, hold and, dispense tape. And last but not least, we've got our jigs, which will hold our work and register it for printing. All right, let's get set up for the first print. So what we do with the printmaking table is we clamp the aluminum frame, the aluminum screen into these little hinges. These are printing hinges. They're fantastic. And it lets us lift up the screen and put it back down in the exact same place every single time. Once I've got it tightened in, we drop the jig into place.
Bonus? Oh, that's great. I don't know if that'll stay, but that's great.
I then stick the jig down to the tabletop with some double stick tape. And once I've got it stuck down, I lower the screen again, and this is where the little wiggle float comes in to play. I'm going to float the screen around until I get those registration marks on the screen lined up perfectly with the registration marks on the jig. Once that's the case, I tighten up the nuts and we are ready to print.
Okay, we're getting really close to going for it. I have gotten this lined up pretty darn well. Now, I did build into my artwork a little bit of bleed, a little bit of breather room of overlap of inks. So I think that we're good to go. I have got it set up so that there is a slight bounce, a little bit of a trampoline. You don't want the screen to be resting on your printing surface. You want the squeegee to press the screen against the printing surface. All that's left to do is take this off and start mixing up our ink. I am excited. This is the first time this is printed in Oregon. It's crazy. I'm so glad I brought it with us from Hawaii.
I'm masking off the screen with this vinyl tape to keep ink from migrating between the screen and the frame, and also to keep ink from going through other parts of this design that I don't want to print. I've got 2 different images on this, and actually I've got 4 different images on this, and I only want to print one of them.
All right, I think I've got it all set up. I'm going to triple check that I've got everything ready to go because, as I mentioned earlier, once you get everything set up, printing goes fast, so much faster than ceramics. And there's no time to stop because you've got ink that is drying. So I want to make sure I've got all of my plates ready to print on, and then I want to make sure I have space to put them after I printed them so that they can dry. And I just want to make sure I've got everything at hand and ready that I might possibly need before I put the first bead of ink across there. So I'm going to run around here like a crazy person, making sure it's all correct, and then I'll open up the ink. We'll do yellow first. All right, I've got my screen taped. I've got the stuff that I don't want to print covered. Alignment looks good. That's stuck down. I have got my squeegee. It's the right size to print this. I have covered my registration marks so that they don't print through onto the jig. I have my pieces ready to print over here, so I grab one, I put it in the thing, we print it, I take it out, and then I will put it over here on the table, and I believe I have got room for all of them there. My ink is standing by right here. I have the sink over there in case I need to clean things, which I know I will. Gloves, do I wear gloves? Maybe I'll put gloves on, I don't know. And paper, just in case I need to do practice or test prints, I can just grab one of those. There we go. I think we're gonna do it! Ah! This is like fear and happiness mixed together. It's like, I guess maybe like that feeling of being on a roller coaster or something like that. I am so afraid and yet so excited at the same time. Woo-hoo. Can I take a moment and just talk about how much I hate these lift and peel lids? They never work. Never. Oh, I hate these things. I hate them. Awesome! Let's do one for real. Yes. We're going!
Things are looking great, and this is where the flow starts to happen. This is where things move very quickly. We get into a pattern of dropping in your piece, spreading the ink. I then flow the ink back into the screen, readying it for the next print. I move ink back up to the top of the screen, also getting it ready for the next print. We pull out the part that was printed, drop in a fresh board, and do the whole thing again.
So I want to give a shout out to two super important artists in my life. The first one is the very first artist I ever knew, my high school art teacher, Mr. Hamblin, Jonathan Hamblin. An amazing guy, the first real artist I ever met, and he was a printmaker. So in high school, I took classes for him for all 4 years, and I did a lot of printmaking. Mostly linoleum block printmaking, but I also did some intaglio work, and I really loved it. I just loved being able to reproduce your artwork, much like slip casting. The other artist I want to shout out is Melissa Green. She was the instructor that I took 2 classes from at the University of Oregon Crafts Center, which is an amazing facility at UO where I can learn about all different types of crafts. She taught screen printing, and I learned a ton from her. And she gave me the courage to tackle this, and I'm grateful for that because it's just so fun to do. Okay, that's it. We got through yellow on the always be cassowary sign. And I didn't mess up a single print. That never happens. I must thank my teacher, Melissa Green, for that. Because this whole process went way better than it did when I tried to do this in Hawaii, only learning from YouTube. Not that it's bad to only learn from YouTube. It's just I had a lot more practice at the craft center. and I'm grateful for that. So we're gonna clean up, and then I'm going to see if I can dry this screen so we can print the caution magnets before we move on to the next colors of these. These gotta dry for a little bit.
I put the first screen outside in the sun and breeze under the watchful eye of our little water bearer fountain, and while that dried outside, I put a fan on all of the prints inside in hopes of speeding up the drying process on those as well. Setup for this smaller design begins just like it did on our first round of printing. I lock the screen into the clamps and then start to line up our registration points with our registration jig. We're going to be printing 3 prints at once with this because they're small prints, and I just figure it's more efficient to print 3 at one time. To keep the prints from lifting up when I lift up the screen, I'm putting a little dab of adhesive onto the actual printing surface. Now, this is a vacuum table, and I could be running my vacuum, but I'm just taking kind of baby steps in this whole process, and I think that this little tape might just be faster for this print. Once I got everything taped and masked, I put on way too much ink. Future Henrik, do not use this much ink when you're printing something this tiny because it's a nightmare to move it around on the screen. And then we got going. And let me tell you, it went fast. Since we're printing 3 pieces at a time, it went thrice as fast as the first round of yellow printing went. I slowly got used to lifting the 3 little tiny wooden squares out and putting it back in, and quickly ran through all 24 prints. I did mess one up, this one right here, and don't worry, I think we're going to be able to save it. I'm just going to reprint the yellow on another day.
All right, we're all set up for the second color. This is where the registration is critical. I hope I got it dialed in. Orange is open. Let's do it. Here it is.
Just like the last color, I commence things by putting on way too much ink, and I also do my first print on a test piece of paper just to make sure things are looking good before I commit to the much more expensive and limited amount of wood that we have.
Oh, perfect. This ink is much runnier though, so I'm just going to have to be careful about it.
That runny ink is about to bite me in the butt. It spreads differently on the screen, and it's going to take me a little bit of time to get used to it.
Oh, what happened there? We didn't quite get enough. It's okay. It's okay. You know, we're going to print this one twice. I'll just let it dry. I gotta make sure that I put these in right side up. Now we're talking. Look at that. Oh, so crisp, so satisfying.
Once I got a feel for this slightly runnier ink, we were off and running. Is that a little pun? Was that intentional? I don't know. At any rate, I burned through the 24 pretty quickly. Well, I should say I burned through the 23 pretty quickly. And while I did those 23, the 24th was drying on the very corner of the table there. And eventually I was able to go back and do a second pass with the orange, and it turned out perfectly. I love doing multicolored designs because you get to see the image slowly build on itself as you work your way through the printing process. It's like watching a Polaroid film develop before your eyes.
Okay, I'm gonna call it for today. It's 5:30. It's dinner time. Well, it's exercise time, and then it's dinner time. This is a fantastic output for my first printing day. I've got 24 of these with 2 colors, and I've got 24 of the small tiles with 1 color. I think I can wrap up the third and final color on this and the 2 colors on the other one tomorrow with no difficulty. Now, it is easy to think that this is a speedy process because of how fast the printing goes. But don't be fooled. There was a ton of work to get to this point. Burning those screens, designing the stuff, making the jigs, prepping all the parts. It takes so much. I find that in printmaking, almost just like in slip casting, all of the time goes into the preparation. The actual casting portion is pretty quick. And casting is the same as printing in that scenario. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow to finish these up. All right, it's the next morning. It is a beautiful day. I am completely fueled up on pancakes, and I'm ready to print the next colors. Let's get to it. Okay, we've got 3 colors to get through today. I want to do an orange for this exclamation point. I want to do a black for the main graphic on the giant squid warning sign. And then we're gonna do kind of a deep green for this. And I wanna get them all done before lunch today. And I wanna think about my order so that the screens have time to dry. So I think what we're gonna do is you wanna go from light colors to dark colors. So I'm gonna do the orange exclamation point, clean the screen, set it aside to dry. Then we're gonna do the dark green over here. And then by that time, this screen should be dry and we can do the final black on this one. That's the plan. Let's go for it. Okay, so the more colors we stack on each other, the more I worry about, well, attrition, like addition, attrition. As you work your way through additions, your chances of making mistakes gets bigger and bigger because you're just basically multiplying the times you can make a mistake. You print one color, you've got, say, like a 5% chance of mixing up a print. But then if you print a second color, you're doubling. You've got a 5% chance of screwing up your print twice on the first color, then the second color. We're doing 3 colors on these, so we have 3 times the chances of messing up. So I plan on losing prints. It's just kind of inevitable. We printed out, or we cut 24 base pieces for us to print on, and I expected to only have 20 prints at the end. That was kind of my goal for this. And we only cut 24 of these out of a planned edition of 100 because these things in and of themselves are very expensive, and it's an expensive material, much more expensive than paper. So we want to just kind of dial in the process. This is like a nice bite-sized amount for printing. And if this goes well, which it's going well so far, we'll work on the next batch. I will say, I can't believe I've got 24 great prints of the cassowary, and I only messed up 1 of these. I only messed up 1 print, and it kills me. I should have just gone back and reprinted the yellow, and it would have been fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait for us to do the next batch of these, and I will reprint this one so we don't lose this material, because it's expensive.
As always, a new color means new registration, so the first thing we do is put our registration jig underneath the screen and then align the screen to registration marks with the ones on the jig and lock everything down. Once everything was in position, it was time to tape up all the stuff that I don't want to get ink at, and at this point I want to just talk about how terrified I am of the serrated edge on this tape. Thank God it has this safety catch, or I think I would have cut my finger off by now.
All right, here we go. It is a tiny, tiny, tiny little thing that we're printing, so I'm just gonna use a small amount of ink. I'm using my small squeegee, my small G, and let's do it, let's do it. I remember that this ink, this orange red is, what's this official color called? I don't know. Fire red. I love this red. It's a great caution sign color. It's a little runnier than the yellow was, so I gotta kind of keep my eye on it. That is probably more than enough ink. Oh, so crisp, so crisp. Oh, they're perfect. Beautiful.
Alrighty, now that we've got the orange dialed in, it is time to print the remaining 23 little squares. Well, 22, because we did mess up one of those squares yesterday, and we will reprint that when we do the next round of yellow small tiles. While the orange dries on the small tiles, I cleaned off the screen and set up for the next large print. We're going to do the third and final color, which requires, of course, some very careful registration. And then I also wanted to mix a custom green. I wanted the green to be a little bit darker, a little bit deeper than the green that was available right out of the can. I mixed up a batch and then labeled it for the use on the rest of the edition because I'm only printing 24 today and I want to do 100 of these.
All right, we've got the green mixed up. I am going to use the small squeegee, mini G, because it is just about an inch wider than the design on each side, which is perfect. And I have got everything taped up and ready to go. It's time for the third and final color on the cassowaries. Where is my spatula? Relaxing breath, relaxing breath. It's magic. It is like magic.
It was another glorious day of error-free printing. I got all 24 Always Be Cassowary signs printed perfectly, all 3 colors, and while they dried, we can move on to the giant squid warning sign.
All right, we're on to the final color, and it's going to be a black. Now, when I started screen printing years ago, back in Hawaii, I did a lot of research on what inks to use. Now, I'm using all water-based inks in the studio. That's just the way I want to go. I don't want to have any solvents or nasty chemicals running around. I've got nothing against those inks. It's just not what I choose to use. So the majority of the inks that I'm using, well, in fact, all of the inks I'm using are by Speedball, and they are specifically for printing on wood and or paper. Now, back in the day, everyone complained about the Speedball Black. They said the black was not really good. It was chalky, it was icky. They didn't really like it, so I bought some very, very fancy ink. It was called, I think, Jacquard Black, and it looked like it was for like the ultimate fine artist printmaker. I felt very fancy when I got it, and it was a nightmare to use, and it took forever to dry. I mean, like months after printing, it was still really tacky. This is what we're going to try today. People have been raving about this. It is the Speedball Professional Black. It is a very new formulation, and it's supposed to be great. In fact, I suspect it is great because it was almost impossible to find. I had to look everywhere to find it. It just is sold out everywhere because I guess people love it, and it gets rave reviews. So let's see how it goes. We're going to print the black on the giant squid warning sign. I've got to be extremely careful placing these in here to make sure that I always orient them the same direction, or else the exclamation point will not be correctly lined up. I can easily print these upside down or to the side, so just got to remember that. Okay, I just tightened up the screen for the final color, and it's these wing nuts. They are small. I wish they were a little bigger so I could get better torque and they were easier to take on and off. I looked online and I can get some larger ones, but they're a little expensive. I think I'm gonna take the plunge though. If I find a set that works, I will put a link to them in the description of this video. Or if you know of a set that would work, these are 5/16 bolts. Let me know if you've got a wide wing nut that is at a good price and good quality. All right, final color, here we go. I think I've got everything ready. We are taped. Got a nice trampoline. I got my spacers, test paper, go, spatula. Relaxing deep breath. Oh, peel and lift. Come on. Oh. Ah! Why? Ah!
Okay, once I got the peel and lift lid sorted out, I went ahead and printed the black. Now, as always, I do a test print on paper, and this shows you exactly why. It turns out I still had a little bit of moisture left on the screen from when I cleaned it this morning, and the print didn't work out too well. The first paper looked good, but the screen felt strange, so I ended up printing 2 more paper ones just to clear out all the remaining moisture on the screen before moving on to actually printing onto our wooden little squares, because, you know, those squares are expensive and I want to make sure that we can make every one count. I'm trying to avoid that addition attrition.
Yes! Yes! Look at that.
With our screen moisture issues sorted out, I quickly burned through the remaining 22, I don't know. I got all 23 tiles printed, and they turned out fabulous. I absolutely love the quote-unquote professional Speedball Black. It lives up to its name, and the prints looked fantastic.
All right, that brings us to the end of the episode, but not the end of this printmaking adventure. We're only 24 prints into the edition of 100. Now, if you want to get your hands on one of these warning signs, well, I guess they're both warning signs in a way. We got the cassowary warning sign and the giant squid warning magnet. They're live now in our web store. The link is in the description of the video. Now, there's only 100, so if you want one, grab them while they're available. Now, if you don't want one, but you want to support us in some way, by all means, please click subscribe. It really means a lot. I know that everyone begs you to subscribe at the end of the videos, but we do it for a reason. Subscriptions are important to us as creators. Whew. Now, my last question for you before I sign off is, what are you going to do this year that is new? 2025 is the year that Denise and I want to tackle new mediums, new things, new techniques. We wanted to push our brains, and we're really excited about it. This has been so fun, and we've got a lot of other projects in the works that are equally as exciting for me, and I want to know what you're going to do. Let me know in the comments. I can't wait to see it, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Tiki Technical Tuesday.